Thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Christine Murray. I'm the marketing manager here at Delego, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. This webinar is part of a new monthly webinar series showcasing Delego's e-payment and security solutions. In this session today, we will discuss how to secure your SAP systems and reduce PCI scope in your call center environment, and will be led by Douglas Fisher, Vice President of Sales at Delego, as well as Jesse Jameson, a Sales Engineer at Delego. Before we jump in, everyone has been muted since we are recording this session for replay purposes. Using the chat window pane, you can send questions to me directly at any time throughout the presentation, which we'll answer during our Q&A period at the end of Jesse's demonstration. We have a great condensed agenda today focused on how we can help you secure your call center environment, reduce PCI scope, and save on costs associated with compliance. And finally, Jesse will guide us through the order-to-cash process using the Delego Cloud platform. Just a little bit of background for those unfamiliar with us. Delego's roots and expertise are in SAP. Established in 1997 as an SAP consulting firm, Delego became an SAP partner and a certified payments solution provider in 2000. As a certified SAP partner and a PCI DSS Level 1 service provider, today we secure, integrate, and enable e-payments for the world's largest companies running SAP, including SAP. For merchants who want to scale into new markets, Delego also partners with over 50 processors worldwide and enable them to go global and benefit from local settlement cost savings and meet data privacy requirements. Just last week, Delego was named Top 25 SAP Solution Provider by CIO Applications. We invite you to read our cover story in the SAP Solution Special by getting your digital copy, visiting delegopayments.com/winning, and we'd love to hear your feedback. So since we have a lot to go through in this short session with a Q&A at the end of our presentation, let's kick things off with Douglas.
Great, Christine. Really appreciate it. I'm very excited to be here today. Let's get right into it. All right, so when we're out talking to our clients and prospective clients, we typically come across a number of industry challenges within the call center space. Mainly these three issues that continue to come up. The first one is operational costs are increasing for a merchant base. They have inefficiencies within their own payment flow. There's a lot of manual processes within that, with accepting payments, and so they look to us to help with the integration between their payments and their SAP system. The second and third challenges that we have relate to, obviously, security is a big challenge with our clients. We hear from them, regularly how the breaches that they get delivered to their emails or they hear on the news are keeping them up at night, and they're looking to address that hopefully through Delego. The second area is PCI compliance. So there's a number of challenges within PCI that we're going to touch on today, including how we can help decrease the scope of PCI. So we're going to be focused mainly on the security issue and the PCI issue. So back to the security issue, just some staggering statistics that are out today in the industry. In 2016, there were over 4,000 breaches across the globe, resulting in 4.2 billion records exposed in the industry. And so, what's going on in 2017? Is it getting any better? Well, in fact, it's getting worse. The first half of 2017 compared to the last half of 2016, there was an increase of 164% in compromised or stolen data within the merchant base. So this is a extremely real threat that we're looking at. Another area where the fraudsters are looking to hack into systems is through malware. Malware is typically found on a PC or a network, which can compromise data, obviously. So last year alone, there were 175 million malware attacks throughout the world, and it's getting worse. We found with some of the payment technologies in some of the countries, EMV or chip cards, because of that increase in security, now the fraudsters are looking at other ways that they can attack and compromise card not present transactions, which certainly in a call center environment happens quite frequently. So, what does it mean to you as a merchant? Well, there's a study done in the summer of 2017 that looked at, the indirect costs and the direct costs of a stolen record or compromised record. And when you look at the indirect costs are like losing customers, approximately 65% or $146 is an indirect cost per record. And when you look at direct costs, which are costs to actually fix the issue technically, as well as to pay out your customers if there's any lawsuits, there's a 35% of the direct of the 225 percentage is indirect costs. So when you look at putting this into reality, when you look at a breach, a small breach, which might be 10,000 records, overall total cost to the company can be well over $2.2 million. So very significant costs involved with security. Looking at the on the PCI compliance effort and cost, what we found in the call center environment and in PCI environment overall is that when PCI introduced 3.0, PCI 3.0, it introduced the network and workstation in PCI scope. So we generally see the malware attacks within networks or within workstations. So there are more challenges that need to be thought about in terms of PCI, and we're going to talk a little bit about those coming down in the next slide. Okay, so this following slide is looking at the entire payment ecosystem within an environment. This includes both a web store environment or e-commerce, but obviously today we're going to focus on the call center ecosystem, which is indicated here in the gray background. So let's talk about a typical call center transaction or user case and how we can help reduce the scope, PCI scope. So typical example, client calls in and they want to pay for a good or service with their credit card. The call center utilizing SAP hits a button that pulls up a card entry screen. And so what Delego has done here is we've integrated within SAP it's called Delego Secure for SAP, and it's a in-browser application that allows a call center to enter that PAN number or credit card number right into the Delego for Secure for SAP. Once they enter into that, and just by the way, that is a module that's totally hosted by Delego in our cloud environment, thus keeping your SAP system totally out of scope. So once they enter that information into the card entry screen, we're going to do a request for a token with the credit card information. The Delego cloud is going to get that token back, and once the order is saved, we're then going to create that authorization and send it directly back to the processor for processing. Once we have the relevant information, we then, again, because we're integrated with SAP, that information, the token, goes directly back into the SAP system, as I mentioned, and the authorization information is in SAP. So that is a process that we have today. However, as I discussed, there are some changes or have been changes with PCI to introduce some scope within the network environment or the workstation. So what we've done is we've developed a PCI validated point-to-point encryption or P2PE solution. And basically what we've done is we've added, for each call center that accepts those credit card transactions, we've added a piece of hardware that simply plugs into the workstation through USB. And once they enter the information into the card number, or sorry, into the piece of hardware, it encrypts the PAN information directly into the device and out into the network. So all the information that's being passed into the Delego Secure for SAP module is actually devalued information. So in that case, it allows for no information, no valuable information or PAN information to be submitted throughout, to the workstation and through the merchant's network. So those are kind of two areas where we help with PCI and reducing those costs. When ultimately, if you have the P2PE encryption, what you're going to get is a SAQ P2PE HW designation, which will reduce the amount of, if you're doing a self questionnaire, reduces the number of questions from over 300 to approximately 29. So again, the costs involved and the processes involved in going to a solution like this will be substantially reduced, not only from internal costs that you might have, but also from your QSA. The third area that we've been working on in terms of call center reducing PCI scope is we have large merchants that are doing IVR or have IVR systems within the call center. And so they've come to us with, how can we remove the entire call center out of scope so that any recordings that are made, we can handle, no PAN information, credit card information is recorded at that time. So we're working with those clients on a dial tone recognition solution that would take the entire call center out of scope. So if there's any interest from anyone on the phone that would like to learn a little bit more, simply you can reach out to myself or your account manager for more information about that. Okay, so with that, I am going to hand it over to Jesse to basically get into the details of what I just discussed within the payment ecosystem utilizing SAP.
Perfect. Thanks, Doug and Chris. Great job, guys. So, as Doug mentioned, we're going to touch on the order to cash process today. I'm going to walk you guys through an order through our VAO1 order entry, and we're going to kind of talk about it as if the CSR is entering it in your call center. With that said, I do want to let you guys know, though we are showing you this in VAO1 and ECC6 system, we are definitely certified all the way up and through HANA, and we can definitely work with you in all of those different platforms. So I've created a sales order to start with, and we can go ahead and open that up. So effectively, the CSR would receive a call. They'd be able to jump into their VAO1 order entry screen, and they would begin that order entry process. Where we come into play, of course, is going to be on the header itself under the payment card tab, so we can jump over there. Now, if the CSR were, of course, to enter in the credit card number directly in the card number field here, that's going to bring the entire SAP system into PCI scope. So, of course, it's going to increase the audit as well as the onus on yourself as a merchant to maintain those security thresholds and protections. So with that, the first thing we've done is we've actually decreased your SAP scope by simply adding in an enter card button here. By clicking the enter card button, that's going to open up our Delego Secure for SAP. From there, we'll be able to go ahead and enter the data in as far as the relevant PAN information. This window, as Doug mentioned, is going to be provided from the cloud solution. So with that, it is outside of your PCI scope as a merchant, and this does not return any secure PAN data to your SAP system. A couple things to touch on with the screen itself here. First thing is, you'll notice we've got that swipe card button at the top. That does tie directly into that point-to-point encryption device that Doug had mentioned earlier on. This is the device that connects directly to our Secure for SAP entry screen. As Doug mentioned, that's going to encrypt the device in hardware, allowing us to completely remove both your network as well as the terminal from PCI scope and further decrease that audit onus as far as what's left with you as the merchant. Another piece of the puzzle that we've found has actually been very beneficial for us is the bank payment solution. So a lot of our merchants have found that the ACH and bank payment options have been beneficial for us. With that, one of the things that we've been able to do is incorporate ACH as well as e-check processes directly into our card entry screen and allow for those to flow through the payment process exactly the same way as a credit card process would. So we'll go ahead and enter some of those basic details in just for a credit card today to show you guys how that'll work. So first of all, when we entered in, of course, we returned a token as well as a successful message on the actual card entry web screen there. But if we jump back into the SAP order entry screen, because it is seamlessly entered or integrated into the SAP order entry screen, we can simply hit the check mark. We're now going to see that devalued token as well as the relevant data returned, and thereby we're able to save that information into the SAP system. So if I jump back out and I go ahead and save the order entry down, and then we jump back into the actual order, by saving it, what's happened is we've actually triggered the authorization process. That's reached out to our Delego cloud for an actual authorization on the card itself. And what we've now seen is a returned piece of data under our status tab, which is going to carry not only the actual tokenization data, but also all of the relevant authorization and GL information that gets tied to that. So again, what we've been able to do at this point is simply enter all of the data into the SAP order entry screen, except for that important PAN data, which we've maintained outside of your PCI scope. So now, of course, the next step of the puzzle is we actually have to send the product out, or we have to create the billing and invoice it. So when we do that, what ends up happening is we're facilitating in the back end of SAP the integrated accounting piece. So if we jump back into that billing document we've simply created, and we open up the accounting itself, here we're going to see all of the relevant transactions from the accounting perspective. So we've got the $75 from our customer that was calling in to place the order. We've recognized the $75 in sales, so we've credited the sales account. Then, of course, the account is actually being paid for by the credit card. So what we've done is we've subtracted that Rose Pharmacy $75 outstanding amount. And what we've done is we've placed that into our trade credit card receivables account. So by doing this, what we've allowed for is the accounting to now be placed into a holding where we're actually going to see when we settle, that money gets moved into the bank account process. So we'll jump back out for now, and we can close down the accounting side. Now, the next piece I'm going to jump into is the actual settlement itself. Now, one thing I should mention about this is it would definitely be automated in all of the merchant environments. So effectively, a settlement would usually run overnight, and then, of course, you would receive the subsequent notifications on successes and failures. We can actually send those directly to your SAP workplace. So first thing in the morning, the relevant people get notified. And then from there, what we can do is actually have the accounting take place in the background again for you as well. So we'll see here, we've run the settlement. It's recognized the $75, that was the outstanding amount. Settlement document was then created and posted. And if we go take a look at that document itself, what we're going to see is that trade credit card receivables has now been credited with the $75. Effectively, the credit card company has approved that settlement. We now know that the expectation is the bank is going to pay us that $75. So we've moved that into a holding account for the Citibank other postings in this case. So what we need to do at that point is simply wait for the settlement to actually hit the bank, and then from there, we can follow our standard reconciliation process. If I were to look at the spool file that's generated when we actually talk about the settlement itself, what we're going to see is the ability to review not only all of the items that were credited or debited and successful, but it will also notify us of any failed settlement attempts. And what actually happens at that point is the system is smart enough to recognize that that value has been declined, recognizes where the value came from, and is smart enough to then post the subsequent reversal documents, placing that as an outstanding amount on the customer's account. And again, you'll receive those notifications right inside of your SAP workplace. The last step, of course, is to actually get the money from the bank. So when we do receive that notification that the funds have been transferred into the bank, we can simply come in, post the clearing, notifying the actual SAP system that we've now received the funding of the $75 and removing it from that holding account. So by doing that, we now see a $0 amount of the not assigned funds. $75 was expected and returned. So we've successfully reconciled the money now inside of the bank account. So with that, that was everything I wanted to touch on with you guys today. And Chris, whenever you're ready, do you want to jump back to that presentation?
Great, thank you guys. We're now going to begin answering questions submitted. As a reminder, you can still submit questions through the chat window in your attendee control panel. So our first question, is the shred key device required, or can we use card entry by itself? What are the implications?
I can take that one, Chris. So great question. The shred key devices are not required to work with the Delego Secure for SAP module. They are highly recommended, of course, because as mentioned, the terminals and the network would be in scope by using just the Delego Secure for SAP. Now, it does remove the system from the PCI scope, but to fully remove, we do recommend those shred key devices as well. We found that a lot of our merchants have had a great deal of success in both implementing them easily as well as maintaining security using them. So hopefully that answers the question.
Great. Another question that we have here, does the solution work with any processors, or can you share a list of processor partners that you work with?
Sure, that's a great question. So being that Delego is a middleware that sits between the SAP systems and processors, when we implement a P2PE solution, we've already connected to the processors that we deal with. So as you mentioned earlier, Christine, we have a network of over 55 different processors that we already connect to. So there's they would automatically get if they would automatically get the processors that they currently have, or any others that they want to add on later. So it makes the implementation very easy and simple, and it's more of a configuration for us in professional services or operations. In terms of the list, we certainly can provide a list of the 55 processors. If you want, you can, again, send me an email or inquiry to sales@delegopayments.com.